So you were just talking about like observing us, right? So aliens are found out to be real, right? So let's even say that something crashes in the Ukraine. It is an alien vessel. It is clearly evidence of intelligent life beyond our Earth. And there's going to be a moment of figuring out what do we all do with this. So aliens have not landed and invaded, but we've got their spacecraft, and it's obvious.
Yeah.
Peace on Earth. Independence Day unity, like do we become better or worse off in that kind of situation?
I think that's the best thing that could happen to us. I would be thrilled if we became aware of aliens. If they crashed, awesome. If we had incontrovertible proof of radio signals from another planet, as long as we had confirmation that there is intelligent life elsewhere that's not human, I think it would be wonderful. Mm-hmm. The reason that I say that is I think human beings are inherently tribalistic. I think we have a deep-set, innate impulse to support our team in the defense against another team. And we crave having an other to alienate and to fight and to compete against. And I think just having a concept that Earth is not alone and that there is a truly alien other out there, I think you would see a greater degree of international cooperation. I think you'd see people going, I don't like the Chinese communists, but they only got one head.
You're saying, well, yeah, no, I think this is interesting. I sort of apply this to like how I imagine parents relate to their child. It's like, we have a common enemy, okay? We can be united in this. And I sort of see a similar situation with aliens. The thing that I would sort of push back on there is we already struggle to understand each other and to come to any sort of consensus or even interpreting each other's arguments and beliefs in good faith. You add a whole bunch of other complexity that comes with an entirely different species in here, and how does that go? Are we attempting to reconcile our differences with them? We already fail to do that with each other, even people who live within the same state or the same city.
I think the case for what you said about there, possibly being peace on Earth and goodwill to men is that we would be re-inspired. We would realize that there are possibilities that Elon Musk should in fact have an even more massive private and public budget given to him to do his research in the stars. Like there would be sort of a reimagined sense of what's possible. Like I think it is true that everything that was accomplished in the 1960s and 70s, and Ezra Klein was writing about this the other day in the New York Times, that like we accomplished all these great societal advancements, more equality, more rights, and going for the stars, like all at the same time. That makes some sense to me. Like maybe we would progress, but I think you're wrong. I think that,
how dare you? Tell me why.
So that craft lands in the Ukraine. There's going to be a bloodbath over who owns it.
Okay.
The countries are going to then race to that crash site, violate one another's sovereignty because it is so clear the stakes will be so high as to who owns that technology. You will have to fight for it. The United Nations is not going to like get it and then put it in some facility for everybody to have access to. Russia's going to scoop it up and they're going to keep it from everybody else.
Well, so are we so sure that the technology would be the focus as opposed to not literally dissecting, but at least understanding this new sort of species or the form of life? Why would we be so interested in the technology at the expense of
war?
I think yeah, you think
the
about,
military
like,
capabilities
the
of that
insane
is really the
technology
part to
necessary to go across this. I mean, it's crazy to fathom how advanced you'd have to be to get to cross any galactic stretch. It would be really good propulsive technology.
But what makes us think that we would even have the ability to replicate it? I suppose we would need to dissect it in order to figure out whether we could.
Yeah, we might die in the process. Who knows? Like if we went back in the past, we accidentally dropped off a nuclear reactor in Victorian England, they'd probably blow themselves up. Like there's a chance we'd do that.
Well, this is the folly of mankind. We want to be masters of the universe.
Yeah.
And all of these different countries, like let's just think of the big ones, right? So like Russia, China,
Belgium.
United States, powerful states, big ambitions. We think that if push comes to shove with outside alien forces, who better to decide what happens in that relationship with these extraterrestrials than us? The Chinese would feel that way. They would think that they are the ones who need to lead the way in those interactions. They would covet the technology, dominate the Earth militarily with it, or at least that would be their hope. And everybody else, their incentive would be to get that technology, and we will rip each other's heads off to get it.
So you make a great point. Theoretically, let's say that our awareness comes not from a crash-landed vehicle, which has always struck me as a very odd thing in American UFOlogy.
Well, if it has such advanced technology, why would it crash and land in our...
It's so advanced.
In Crimea, of all places? Like, really?
But lightning storms are a problem for you.
Yeah.
But let's say theoretically that it's not that. It's just that SETI, the SETI Institute goes, hey, we've got this unequivocal signal that we're getting, and we're going to make it public, and we now know that there's some sort of alien species, and that's all we know. We just know that there's some sort of language. Do you think the same thing would play out, or do you think that my positive scenario would be more likely to happen?
Well, I think we all agree that when militaries around the world get more budget, right? When every nation is sort of increasing their arms race, increasing the size of their military, trying to update their technology, it creates tension. Do we agree with that? Kind of like as libertarians, like
Sure.
like that sort of makes the world more tense when everybody's in that position. Countries around the world, their people would be scared. I don't think in chaos, right? I think everybody would go about their lives, but they would be afraid of the possibilities. And military budgets around the world would just balloon. And you would have tensions rise as just a result of that. Having like the war drum in the background constantly can only lead to bad things. Maybe eventually peace will break out, but only after a lot of bloodshed because of the fear.
Couldn't there be a certain amount of peace that's sort of gotten from this sense of like mutually assured destruction, but at the hands of the other, where there must be some amount of banding together and this sort of, instead of racing against one another to develop this technology, there's this sense of, well, they've made contact with us. They surely have the ability to obliterate us. What are we going to do about it? We better act fast.
I think so. I am in the space
that.
Pollyanna camp. I agree. There was a moment during the towards the end of the Soviet Union where Reagan was walking with Gorbachev and he asked him, if aliens came down and invaded America, would you be on our side or their side? And Gorbachev was like, clearly we'd be on your side.
That is different than just getting access to the technology and realizing that they're out there and that one day we might confront them. An invasion would call for everybody turning their guns on
But at the same time, though, let's say that aliens exist, we're aware of it, and we do bump up our militaries because we're worried that they might come someday. Don't you think at the same time that we would be going, hey, China, in the event that we're invaded, let's start coming up with contingency plans. Let's form an Earth NATO against whatever threat this might be.